is a bit of a, okay, it's going up. 64 people are logging in. I've already posted the lecture from Tuesday. I did it today. Sorry, took a bit. It had a render. Okay. Now, first and foremost, I've gotten a lot of questions about this problem in particular because, you know, you'll write a for loop for, I'll just write for I am range, blah, blah, blah. Not that it does anything here. Not that it has anything to do with the problem right here, but they had input on line 3. Range in. Okay. Okay, it needs an above average. Above AV equals 0, whatever. And it says, hey, checking for a for statement. And you're like, but I put in a for statement. What in the world's going on? Well, I checked the auto grader and the way that the person who wrote this one set it up, and it was that they were looking for 2 for statements in this. So I'll go ahead and show you how this one works, and I'll share the code with everybody so that you can have a correct answer for it, because I know a lot of people, they were pulling out their hairs for this. Okay, so the average monthly rainfall in inches recorded in the Van Nuys Airport in 2018 is stored in the rainfall variable provided below. Create a new list called above average and add a true item for each month that was above average and a false item for each month below average. Now, I like this question because this is the kind of question I would actually ask on a final exam with just, and I'd add a bit more on that. Rather than giving you a list, I would say, here's a file, please read the file and do this and do the same thing. So the data wouldn't already be in there for you. You'd also have to record it. Make sense to everybody? I really like list and file manipulation for this kind of stuff. Ezra, I am scared to ask, what are all the QR codes behind you?
So I actually created a Discord server for chemical engineering students, and this is actually the main server. So it's a quick, easy way for them to scan it and just, you know, join it.
That's clever.
Thank you.
All right. So, all right. So, like I said, so this is a good problem. So here's all the rainfall, and what they want is they want a new list called above average, and for each of these, it will say, hey, was this about, you know, true? We'll have a true in above average at the same index if that value was in rainfall was above average, or false if it was not. So, okay, we've got a new list created, and now we need to figure out what the average amount of rainfall was. Now, and this is where basically a lot of students got driven to madness. I apologize for you if that was the case. So you might have done something like this. Average is equal to sum, because sum is an awesome function, right? And then you'd say rainfall divided by length of rainfall, or len rainfall, which would give you the average. You are completely 100% correct if you did this. Is it the chapter 7? I think it's the chapter 8. But it doesn't matter.
It's chapter 8.
Yeah, I'll share it regardless. But the point being is that so you'd be 100 completely percent correct, especially if I manually graded this. But the problem was that it didn't want you to use the sum. It wanted you to get practice by using the for loop manually. And you're like, okay. So, because if you did that, you wouldn't have enough for loops. It wants to see 2 for loops for some reason. So the second pitfall was students who didn't use the sum function, but they would do something like this. So we're going to go ahead and add everything up. So I'm going to create a variable called sum. And that would cause errors for my auto grader, because show you, run. Error int object is not callable. Very weird error, right? And what that was is that basically is that my auto grader was using the sum function, but because you defined sum as a variable already in the code, the sum function was overridden and it had no idea what to do with that. Like temporarily overridden. You can't like destroy the sum function, but you can like say, no, I don't mean sum the function here for this code. Sum in my code is a variable. This is why you've seen me using the word total a lot when I've been totaling things up. Because I've been avoiding the keyword, and it's harder to see. It's really hard to see in this, but it's a very dark, the keyword is a very dark blue. Okay, so I would have used a different code, whatever. That's runestone for you sometimes. So anyway, total is equal to 0 for amount in rainfall. Total is equal to total plus amount. So that adds that up. And now we've got our, and then what we're going to do is that we'll say average amount of rainfall is equal to our total amount divided by, well, assuming I can spell, because apparently I did amount, total divided by length, rainfall. Okay, great. So we've got our average amount of rainfall. Now what we do is we do a same kind of for loop over here. Okay, which is that for everything in every amount of rainfall, what we're going to do is we're going to ask, is that above average or is it below average? So if amount is greater than the average, what we'll do is we'll say above average is equal to above average is dot append true. Else above average dot append false. And now if we run this, you'll see that it works just fine, because it was really, the reason it wasn't working for the for loop for a lot of students was because you, some reason, needed to have two for loops. That is the way that they wanted it to be done. So I'm going to go and hit and share code with everybody. So you should be able to load this up just like it's a in-class exercise and get the code like that. Make sense? So that is the link to the assignment. And if you reload your page, you should be able to hit, load code and see that. There's some other stuff where like, why did I use amount? Because that's what I wanted to call it, because it was some amount of rainfall. I always try to give my variables a meaningful name rather than naming them I or number or something like that, unless it is a list of just arbitrary numbers, in which case I will call them numbers. But if I'm getting a certain amount of rainfall, I didn't know what units they are, so I didn't feel comfortable doing, liters or square inches or something. So I just said amount. And then, but I could have called it anything. Fair enough. Okay. I just cannot get the movie I saw out of my head. I watched the original 1996 live action Super Mario Brothers movie with my wife last night because she had never seen that amazing travesty of a movie.
Oh, God.
It's, as she described it, it's as though I was playing, it's what I would expect to see if I was playing Mario all day and then went to sleep and had some very lucid dreams.
Why'd you do this to yourself, man?
We both find we're both very easily entertained, and we like and we appreciate bad movies and make fun of them. Well, I'm a big fan of MST3K. So You're going to be able to get some points back. Sure. I just gave you the answer for it. And so when I run the grader again, it'll be fine. So for this one, what issues were people having on this one? This one was just a matter of, I think, getting it set up. Now for the grades problem, let me just say for that one, you got to make sure you're using if, else, if, and else pattern as opposed to if ones, just if statements. And what you also need to do is you need to make sure you aren't using parentheses in the okay, so Ovia, did that code work for you?
No, it says that if statement.
I will copy it and we'll go ahead and use that and see how we can modify that. That sounds like a good idea. And then I'll go ahead and address the other ones. Okay. Because hey, these ones are.
Sorry, do you mind going over the
prime number?
Yeah, because
I'm
getting an error.
That one's a bit different than the other one, so I will do that one. So let's go ahead and see what this got us. Checking if statements and checking the for statements. So okay, if the length of the scores is equal to 0. Oh, I bet I know. A second. So the issue with this one was that here, I will go ahead and show you the way the auto grader works now. Okay. But this one, it was having an issue with, it wanted to see a bunch of inner if statements and else if statements, but no outer if statements. And it also wanted to see the number of for statements. Okay. Sorry, it wanted to see only 4 statements on the outside and it was indented. So I thought it was an inner loop. So here, I'll show, it was, the auto grader was not the best design for this problem, but that's okay. So here's what it looks like on my end of things. Okay, I'm gonna go to assignments. Again, no worries about this. These are, you turn them in at any point and you'll get credit for them. The due dates are fairly soft. So here we go, problems. So if I go and click on this one, I can go hit edit question, and you'll see here that we've got something called that. Here's the text of the problem, language that defines the table, this kind of just, so this is your problem statement over here, right? It's also defining the name, what language that this uses, because RuneStone supports multiple languages, and how we're auto grading it. And we're auto grading it with something called a unit test, which is something that is used to test code. And it's got a lot of built-in stuff in Python to support, as you can see here, it's supported in Python. So from unittest.gui import test case GUI. So it's fine. Also, this is just, so this kind of between the tildes and the equal sign, by the way, is what's going to be inside the code block. So that's how the scores automatically appear. So class test case GUI, you don't need to understand that. Define cell, don't worry about that. So here there is a float regular expression. So what are regular expressions? Regular expressions are something we will learn this semester. Regular expressions don't fit anywhere cleanly into your computer science curriculum, except in the 4,000 level class automata theory, which is the mathematical and theoretical foundations of computers and computer languages, basically proving mathematically what can computers do. But by the time you get to there and get to that theory, it's, not as useful as the knowledge you could have had earlier. And regular expressions don't require all that foundational mathematical language. It's a meta language. And this is an ugly kind of statement we'll do, but we'll learn how to do basic things like how to remove all social security numbers from a document, which is like a question I almost always ask on a final exam. Might want to write that down. So, so for score in scores, here's how that worked. It went through and it basically ran through your scores and tried to create its own grade and compared, did you have the same grades? And then here it was checking to make sure you didn't just hard code the answer, right? So what it did is that it counted the number of if statements that were outside, the amount of if statements the else if statements outside, and the number of outer else's. And the way it looked for that is saying basically beginning of the line and then an if statement and then a bunch of white space and then a colon and then a bunch of more white space. So that's how it was figuring it out. It was just, you'll be able to understand this a bit better when you do regular expressions. But then it says, hey, just making sure there's no outer if statements anywhere. And we've got one inner if, 3 outer ifs, and 1 inner else. So sorry, 1 inner if, 3 inner else ifs, and 1 inner else statement. And then it did similar for the for loop to make sure basically that everything was indented the way that they were expecting, which was not necessarily what everybody did, which is fine. Again, auto graders can only tell if you're definitely right, not if you're they tell if you're definitely right, not if you're definitely wrong. They're there for me to speed up my grading process. So prime numbers, I love my prime numbers. I just did. I just did share the code. Okay. So I love me some prime numbers. A very simple way to tell a number of n is prime is to try dividing all the integers between n and n divided by 2. They wanted you to do it in a specific way, which was first set is prime is equal to true. Okay, start with a test factor of 2. Check if the number is divisible by the test factor. If so if is prime mod test equals 2. Sorry, equals 0. So that's how we can tell if a number is divisible by a number. If we say, hey, if we take our number is prime, blah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it should be n.
N, right? So we want n is equal to 524,287. So if n is mod 2, so if n mod 2 in this case, if n divided by 2 gives you no remainder, that means that n was cleanly divisible by 2 and thus left no remainder. Thus it's divisible by 2. No, the last question is going to be graded tonight. Not tonight, but I'm going to do all the grading this weekend for the quiz 2 to make sure that you got it. Suffice to say, if your picture came up correctly, it's okay, right? That's really what matters for the last question. Did it draw the picture it was supposed to? Okay. So if n mod test is equal to 0, then set is prime equal to false. And then, which I thought was, and so is prime is equal to false. And then for every odd number between 3 to n divided by 2, and I think this was where you get, this is how you have the issues with getting the right number of iterations. So for test in range, starting from 3 to n divided by 2, and then every odd number. So I'm going to put a 2 there so that we count up by 2s. And then print the number. So now we can go and do just this test again.
So does n divided by 2, is that the same as just saying int n divided by 2?
Yes. It's doing integer division.
Gotcha.
So here, this is the same test. And so it wanted me to count the number of iterations. So iterations equals 0. And then each time we go through, iterations plus equals 1. Let's save and run. And then it had issues because it wants me to print out those things. Print is prime. Print iterations. There we go. And it checks the right number. And so the key was just basically starting from 3 and going up like that. Although actually the easiest way to check, why do we have iterations equal to 0? Because you have to set iterate in order to use iterations and increment it, you have to start counting from somewhere. So what it wanted to count was count the number of iterations through the for loop. So how many times did the for loop run? Well, I counted manually like this, which was every time it ran, I incremented by 1. So the first time it ran, it became 1. Second time it ran, it became 2. There's other ways for me to do that, but I could do it but this was the most direct way. And share code with everybody. Okay, sorry about the brain bending difficulty this one provided for you. I did get quite a number of emails, so you were not the only one having issues with it. Now let's go on to an exercise today. So we're going to work on what was once another old homework called string manipulation, or Pig Latin. Now, for those of you who are not from an English speaking country, you may be very, this will be completely new to you. For those of you who are from an English speaking country, just remember that not everybody was. So if my explanation of the rules for Pig Latin seem a bit verbose, that is why, because this works for Latin characters. It doesn't necessarily work for other languages. They have their own word games. Okay, so our goal is to write a program that allows a user to input words, and we are going to transform them into Pig Latin form. Pig Latin is not a real language. It is not Latin spoken by pigs, right? It is a game. It is a language game that kids play. And because of the way Latin sounds, it's called Pig Latin, because it's fake, but Latin. So pig becomes igpe, Latin becomes adinlay. We can see here that basically with anything that begins with a consonant, we kind of move that consonant to the end and we just do a at the end. So it becomes igpe, atinlay. And it sounds kind of Latin-y to English speakers. So here is what I've got for my input and output. This is my input combined with my output. So I type in letter, I get etterlay. I type in foo, I get ufe. Bar, I get arbe. Spam, I get amspe. I type in alakazam, I get lakazam away. Charizard, arizardche. And then done, it terminates the program. All right. So it will keep running until I type the word done. Okay. We'll go over the Pig Latin rules specifically. I'm using the simplified forms of Pig Latin rules, but you can feel free to expand upon that just to get it done. And the object of this program is to get practice with while loops using them in a purely indefinite form, and using functions that call each other using functions to break down a problem into simple parts. Now, what do I mean while loops, using them in an indefinite form? Well, while loops are most useful for what we call indefinite loops, which is the meaning that we don't know precisely how long a loop can last because that's variable on user input, such as waiting for a person to hit the right keys or provide the correct input. On the other hand, for loops, they're most useful for when you're like iterating over a range or some list. They're definite loops because you're typically using them to iterate over a definite amount of a period. Most languages, pretty much every language has a for loop and a while loop. in languages like C and Java, you could get rid of one and just survive on the other. Bit more complicated with Python because of the way they did that, but that's okay. So how to do this program? So we'll have split this up into a couple of functions, and we'll build each of these functions. So here I'm telling you what the pieces are, and it will be our job to combine them. So we'll create what's called a main function. Now, Python doesn't really require a main function, but other programming languages would. So, so I'm just simply mimicking that here. It runs a loop, and it asks the user to input the word, and then it converts the input to lowercase. It prints out the word converted to Pig Latin, and the input is reversed as well. Because that was part of also the extra credit I did that. If the input is done, the loop stops and ends. We also have a technique called find first vowel, which will take in a string and return an integer. The integer is the location of the first vowel in the string. If there's no vowel, just return the index of the last character. And that will help us with the convert to Pig Latin. So in other words, this will tell us the index of the first vowel. Convert to Pig Latin takes in a string and returns a string. So given a word, convert it into Pig Latin. How do we convert it? It's converted using two mutually exclusive rules, which we'll go over again once we actually tackle this function properly. If it starts with a vowel, move the vowel to the end of the word and add way to the end of the word. So like this, Alakazam became Alakazam ma way. Eggs became guess away. It's not perfect, but it's makes it a bit simpler to manipulate. Okay. Otherwise, if it doesn't start with a vowel, move all the letters before the first vowel to the end of the word and add AY. So we saw that with Charizard. Charizard starts with CH. So we moved the CH to the end and added A. Okay. If there's no vowel, just return it because those words are dumb. Okay. Y is not a vowel. Be sure to check these, and then has everything we would need to know about our string functions. And it has a bunch of functions to make our life easier. So let's go ahead and get started with coding this. Okay. Okay, so new function or new program. I'm going to call this string manipulation. Okay. And what we're going to do is now we are going to, I'm not going to worry about my main function yet. First thing we want to do is what seems to be the smallest piece and convert strings to convert to Pig Latin seems to rely on it. So this is part of the power of functions, is that you can work on problems independently in whatever order you choose. So def find first vowel, which given a word tells me where the first vowel in the word is. Does it support this? Yeah, I could do this and drive you all insane. You can put markers, by the way, to tell you what functions will take in and return, but I'll leave that for another day. So we want to find the first vowel in the word. So why don't I go ahead and give you 5 minutes to break you out and think about how to and do that. Sound good? Okay, stop sharing. Pause recording. Breakout rooms. Automatically assigned for 40 people. And 40 rooms. Okay.
Professor, the thing would be if you have like a string of something, right, and you want to see if it's equal to that, would it be if X in that list?
If it's inside, so there's two ways to check. You want to see if A and B are a string. Are you trying to see if A is equal to B or A
Yeah.
is a substring.
A is equal to B.
You do double equals.
No, sorry. So you have a list of numbers. You have 1 through 7, right?
Uh-huh.
And you want, so that's in list A, and then list B is 1, 3, 5, 7. And you want to see if each one of them are in, if,
I think in would work. I think in would work. I'd have to double check.
or like strings. It doesn't have to be numbers.
Strings would be a bit messier because I think it would look for. Let me work on that problem while you go and work on this one. Okay.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay, 17 seconds. So just waiting a bit for everybody to get out. Okay, so let's go ahead and Ezra, I will address your question as soon as I fill this out because it was a good question. And did help me refresh myself on the of how in works. So for finding the first, so what we're trying to do is find the index of the first vowel here, right? The location at which the first vowel was. So what we can do here is we can say index is, there's a bunch of ways to do this. I'm going to start out by saying index is equal to 0. And then we'll return the index at the end that we need. Actually, we don't need to return at the end, as we'll see. So what we'll do then is we'll do for letter in word. I always like, again, meaningful variable names make everything easier to read. So for every letter in the word, we want to check if that letter is a vowel. And remember, we start at index 0, so we'll start at 0 and we'll wait to increment. So if letter and in A-E-I-O-U, that's one way to do it, which is that basically we're saying, hey, the single character, is it one of these things? That's the short way to type that up, as opposed to doing letter is equal to A, or letter equals I, oh, sorry, or letter equals E or O, or, you know. And if that letter is equal to that, then what I can do is I can do a return right here in the if statement. Now you only want to do that if you're sure that you want to put the return right there, because here's what putting the return right here does. Putting the return right here will stop the execution of the loop. We do not have to worry about caps because we'll be converting everything to lowercase. If we did need to worry about caps, that's just a matter of doing this. So for letter in word, if letter in A-I-O-U, return the index. And this again will stop the execution. We're not going to look at any more letters in the word. Okay. Otherwise, if it's not in that, we'll do index plus is equal to index plus 1. And I don't need an else here because that's kind of implied. I can put it though if it makes it feel better. Okay, because, and now once we get to the end, if we didn't find a vowel, just return the last index it's saying. So the last index would be, sorry, the index of the, sorry, what did it say actually to do? Okay, if there's no, just return the index of the last character. So the index of the last character is not going to be what we just have for index, because that will be one past it. So we'll just I'll just simply say length of the word -1, that is the last index. Okay. Which honestly will lead us to trouble down the line. We should just return the length of the word, but that's a bridge we can burn later. Now, there's another way we could do this, which is that we can extract the index at the same time as the word. And this gives me both this will give me both the letter and the index of the word. So we'll just sorry, the index and the letter at that index. So like, for instance, I can show you checking index letter. And then what we're going to do is I'll say sep is equal to /t to make it look a bit prettier, which will separate all those things by tabs. So if I do find first val and I want to print it because I'm returning something, print find first val in, well, let's give it word as our word. That should give me index 1. Right, checking 0, checking index 0 of word that has a W, checking 1, 0. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you could do it. If I did, again, banana, I would get 1. If I did glee, which at least has a vowel there at the end, GLE will return that. And if I return, and if I do sky, which has no vowels, I'll get 2 back. So we'll see what we do, what we're going to do there once that is. Now go. So what enumerate does is that normally when we do a for loop, it's just giving me the item in it, but sometimes I'd like the index as well. So it gives me both the index and the item at that index. If I do enumerate, it allows me to kind of, and so we see that with the printout statement that I'm getting the index 0 and S is at index 0, 1, index 1, and K is at index 1 and 2, and Y. Otherwise, I'd have to do it manually like I was doing earlier. And also I don't need this anymore if I'm doing that because it's keeping track of what the index is. I was like telling myself, you need to remove that earlier, otherwise it's going to be confusing. And then forgot to remove it. Now, going back to, now, Ezra, you had a question about the shell. So let me go ahead and reopen the shell. So you have a question about the in operation, right? So let's say we're doing this test. AE is in Apple. That's going to return false because when we use AE, when we're looking for a string inside another string, we're looking for a sequence of strings. So it's not going to work for Apple. But if I did it for Aegis, which, as everybody knows, is the shield wielded by Athena with Medusa's head imprinted on it. Everybody knows that, right? Then that will give us true because it's got AE in the sequence like that. Okay. However, this is not necessarily going to work if we're working with a list. So, for instance, if I did 1, 7 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I'm going to get false. And if I try again with this, but I say, okay, what about 1, 7? It's also going to get false. Now here, we're not looking for a subsequence. We're not looking for a subsequence in the list. What I'm looking for is, I'm asking, is this literal item inside this list? Because anything can be an item in a list, including other lists. So once more, if I did this, you could see that that is going to be true because this item is in the list. So strings will look for subsequences. And you could just look, and you can, and if you're looking for a single character, you're looking for a subsequence of size 1. And this looks for an item. And items can be anything. All right. So now let's look at the fun part, convert to Pig Latin, which takes a string and returns a string.
You
Okay.
might just go back for a second to your code, please. Yeah.
I'll drop this in chat for everybody.
So how come you got rid of index?
Sorry.
Oh,
Index
did you just?
plus equals. Why did I get rid of the index plus equals 0?
There we go.
Index plus equals 1, rather.
Yeah.
I got rid of that because it's automatically incrementing it from me. It's automatically figuring out what the index is for everything. So I don't need to manually try to fix the index myself.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. So now what am I going to do? We are going to do the def convert to Pig Latin. Okay. And that's also going to take in a word. We're going to assume again, this word is lowercase. Okay. So what we're going to do is that, so honestly, I think that if I were redoing this, I'd give different clauses, because the best way to check if something doesn't have a vowel here, what I would want to do here is that if it didn't have a vowel, I would want to return this, basically saying, hey, tell me what that is, but we'll get to that later. So first off, convert word to Pig Latin. Basically, what we want to know is, does the word start with a vowel? If so, move all the words to the end of the vowel. Otherwise, move all the letters before the first vowel to the end of the word and add that. So the question is, how can we tell if something starts with a vowel with the tools that we have just written?
Is it
If index,
if index is 0?
Right. If find first vowel gives us 0. So index is equal to find first vowel of word. So this will give us the first vowel of that word. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, if index equals 0, then the word starts with a vowel. Word starts with vowel, in which case we want to give a word where basically the vowel is moved to the end and we add way. Okay. Else, and we can modify this a bit. Otherwise, it's not going to start with a vowel. The vowel is somewhere else. So, now I wrote this a while ago, and I'm seeing a lot of assumption errors that I made earlier. So, but I'm going to continue with this, and then we'll go in and rectify those mistakes. So, because those mistakes won't crop up for most words. So else, word starts with not vowels, because that's easier to spell than consonants. Move everything before first vowel to end of word. Add a, like the fonts or something. So here we can actually do this in one state with just a single line return. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this into chat, this function. Okay, because I want you to try to figure out, at least for this first one, if index is equal to 0, how do we change this word? How would we change? How can we do a manipulation that would change, say, you know, how would we do a manipulation that changed something like, apple to PPL ploe, pleoe, like that. Yep, and when we move the vowel. And yes, we're going to want to use slicing and some splicing together. So here you go. Take a crack at it for, again, 5 minutes. And if you're able to solve that one, go on to the trying to do, fill out the other question marks. Forgot N and convert. Oh yeah, well, we're doing it covertly, I guess, then. All right, we're going to go ahead and breakout rooms. And I know it's not the same or nearly as active if we're in the same, as if we were in the same room together and you could just reach to somebody next to you. But best facsimile I've got. So 5 minutes. Okay. Let's see. So 4, 3, 2. Let's go ahead and share screen. So anyone come up with a solution? Yes. Feel free to share.
So can I go ahead, Professor?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I first did was I split the word.
Mm-hmm.
So I created another function called split,
Mm-hmm.
which returned an array
Mm-hmm.
of string, which is like split. And then from there, I appended the zero position word. And then I removed the zero position word using the pop function. And then I appended way. And then I just combined the list.
Good idea. Probably, I bet it works. Does it?
Yeah, it worked.
Over-engineered, in my opinion, though, for this.
Oh, okay.
No worries. Can do it all in one line.
Wait, really?
Yes. Yes. So it's because any of these conversions basically ends up splitting this word into 3 parts. We've got the basically when we move the vowel to the end of the word, we've got basically we've essentially got basically everything but the first vowel. Plus, and then we move it to the first vowel to the end. So first vowel. And then at the end, we add way to the end. So split up into 3 parts, one of which is already done. Okay. Now. Yep, Jonathan, you've got that. So everything but the first vowel. Now we know where the first vowel is, what the first vowel is. It's the thing located at the very first index. So we could just simply say word 0. Right? So that gives us, for our apple, then these 2 things together give us the away in our pull away, in our plee away. So apple, this, and way. So now we just need a slice that's going to give us everything but the first vowel. So, and again, as I just mentioned, that's a slice. So we want to include the end. So we want everything in the word except for the very first character, the first vowel. So index 1 all the way to the end, word, way. So if we, for instance, if we do convert to pig Latin, and then we do apple. Did not like that. Return. Plee away. Okay, that's great. Now for the other one, we can do the same strategy. Move everything before the first vowel to the end of the word and add a at the end of the word. So again, we can split this into 3 parts. You're going to have an a at the end. Okay, so now we have everything starting from the first vowel. I'm not being consistent in how I type these up because I'm about to delete them anyway. Everything before first vowel. So this is basically so basically we've got our first vowel here. So we've got, for instance, if we have technique, we could, that would become ecnicute. Ecnicute? Sure, why not? And as we can see, that is everything after the first vowel plus, sorry, the first vowel and everything after, plus everything that was before the first vowel plus the te. So how do we get everything before the first vowel? Because it could have been like it wouldn't just be the first letter. It could be something like Charizard again. Well, again, we'll do a slice. Word, everything before the first vowel. So we want everything. So we're going to start at the beginning, not going to change that part. And we're going to go up to, but we don't want to include the first vowel. Where's that? That index. First vowel is at index. So this gives us everything before the first index. And now we want everything starting from that index to the end. Make sense? So Apple, Charizard. Ache. So that was not good. Oh, right. What did I forget?
Oh. Last
Yeah.
one?
Forgot to put in my colon. Arzard Che. In order to get the slice. It was just, I think I didn't quite press down the key for when I was typing index. Okay. So that's how we do that. So now we need to have a main function, which basically is going to call the, and I'll leave the for what if it doesn't have a vowel for a discussion for another time. What I'm going to do now is write our main function. Okay. Which is just going to organize all the code we wrote. So I will be sharing the code. Yes. Let me go ahead and share this function that I just wrote, this part of the function. Okay. So now the main function. So what we need to do here is basically let the user keep asking for a word. So until they enter the word done. So done is equal to, so I'm going to use a word called, yeah, I'll use, because I don't want to cludge up my vocabulary and have two words mean different things and variables mean different things. I'm going to use finished is equal to false. And what I'll do, I'll have my while loop run like this. While not finished. Now that's going to run forever until finished becomes true. Make sense? I like constructing while loops like this. This generally helps. So what do we want to do each time this runs? We want to ask the user for their input. Okay. And see what it is. And see what's good. Ask them for the input, convert it to lowercase, and then change it. Is there a benefit for doing not while not finished versus while finished equals false? Yeah, I can read this. I can read it, reads like English while not finished. That's the benefit for doing it that way. So while not finished, we'll get the input. We'll say word is equal to input. We don't bother, and here we weren't prompting for anything. And then what we want to do is we want to convert this word to lowercase, as I mentioned earlier. And and I mentioned in the document, there's a nice useful function called word dot to lowercase. Let me go ahead. I could do finished is true and then break, but I like this way. and sorry, it always, yeah, two lowercase. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this like here, string two lowercase. I don't need to match the whole word anymore. Thank you. Ah, it's not two lowercase. In Java, it's two lowercase. I think it's just. Why are you
It's just
not?
dot lower.
Yeah, it's just dot lower. I don't know why I'm not searching for it though. What's going on here? Highlight all. Did I break my did I break something in this? Great. Doesn't even tell me that I've got it wrong. Anyway, there's a function here which is lower. I believe that converts everything to a lowercase function, which sounds way more less exacting when I can just kind of show you that there's a function named lower, which is, ugh. Why can I not? Okay, there we go. There we are. So wasn't available in there. So string methods there. There we go. Yes, it's called lowercase. It's called lower. Yeah, not is essentially the opposite. It flips it. So it flips a false to a true and a true to false. So what we'll do to convert this to lowercase is that we just simply hit word dot lower. Sorry, it takes me a second because it's hard to sometimes keep it straight between Java and Python. So now so now what we can do is we can say pig is equal to word dot sorry, not word dot, but convert to pig Latin. Now, if I can run it at this point, but it won't stop. That's okay though. Convert to pig Latin word. Because I can always terminate it on its own. So Apple. Sorry. Whoops. Oh, I have to call the function as well down here to get started. So Apple, banana. Just taking those words. Aha, what did I forget to do? I forgot to print out my converted thing. Print pig. Apple, banana, banana bay, taco, akote. Great. So it works. Now we just got to get it to stop doing. Now I could just simply do something. You might think, okay, so there's a couple ways I can do that. But the main thing is that I take in the input. And if I say if word equal, I'll do it after I convert the word to lowercase, just to make it easier for myself. If word equals done. So if these are typed in done, we'll set finished equal to true. And that will stop the program, but we're not quite done yet because as you'll see. So if I do apple, banana, cherry, done, unday, and then it finishes. Now, why did it do unday? Well, it set finish to true, but we still have the rest of the for loop to go through. So we could break.
I thought that, oh, what if you return? Oh, can you do like an else statement instead?
Yep, I'm just going to put an else here. If word is done, then we're done. Otherwise, convert it to pig Latin and print it out. Okay. All right, so copy. Sent to everybody in meeting. Hey, it was able to do that. There's your finished, there's the finished program. Dropped in chat. So any questions before we wrap up for the day?
Thank you.
All right. I hope you all have a good weekend.